Welcome back to The Truth is Viral. I'm your host, Bob Powell, and in this episode we're going to go back a little bit over a year to an interview that I conducted with Jim Berkland. He's a scientist with the United States Geological Survey. Back in 1989, Jim predicted the Loma Prieta quake, or the World Series earthquake, in about a week in advance. So and he's got a stellar earthquake prediction record, running around 80%. So this is somebody that we want to talk to. And this interview was actually recorded when booms were starting last year, before the boom here in Alpena. But what Jim has to say about this boom, the explosion that rocked hundreds of square miles, you can get caught up by watching that episode right there. But this boom, these explosions that are happening, they're happening all around the country. They were happening in Wisconsin when this interview with Jim took place, and I asked him about them in that instance, and he talks about that, and he goes into fracking. But the most important part of this episode are his insights on a megaquake in the Pacific Northwest. We start out by talking about the preparations that FEMA has been making down in the New Madrid fault zone, but Jim, the earthquake predictor extraordinaire, is more worried about a slip strike fault in the Pacific Northwest that could cause a tsunami, and it'd be bad news for a lot of people. So let's see what Jim has to say, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Places you don't talk about at parties. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Keep this frequency clear.
And now it's conspiracy. See, they've made that something that should not be even entertained for a minute. That powerful people might get together and have a plan. Doesn't happen. You're a kook. You're a conspiracy buff.
You're watching The Truth is Viral, the only news program on the internet trusted to deliver the truth since 2008. And now, here's your host, Mr. Bobby Powell.
You know what the great thing about having your own show is? You can film the open and the bumpers anywhere you want to. As a matter of fact, I think this season I'm going to be out of the studio a lot, because ain't nothing in the world like fishing with your boy. Hey, the first thing that I want to do is thank everybody for the condolences, prayers, and good vibes that you sent me after my daughter died. Yeah, I learned something that I want you to know. We're not guaranteed our next breath. None of us. My 24-year-old daughter, with, as far as I knew, a perfectly healthy heart, just drops dead of a heart attack. If it can happen to her, it can happen to you. It can happen to me. It can happen to him. Don't waste a single moment. Spend time with your family. Spend time with your loved ones. Make every moment count, because you're not guaranteed another. So while you enjoy this interview with Jim Berkland, me and my son are going to go fishing, see if we can't slay a few bass. Okay, so Mr. Berkland, there's been a lot of speculation on the internet about there being a 188-day cycle, but you don't subscribe to that, do you?
I believe there certainly is a cycle based on the phase of the moon. There are equinoctial tides, not only in the seas but in the solid earth. I've been predicting earthquakes based largely on that since 1974, when I first observed a warning that we might have flood tides in the Bay Area due to an unusual astronomical alignment. I was a Santa Clara County geologist at the time, and had been greeted in the county by 6 earthquakes in the Bay Area in the fall and early winter of '73, and so I made my first prediction because I recognized that the solid Earth was also responding to the gravitational stresses, and so that first prediction was for a 4 to 5 magnitude quake to occur in the South Bay within 1 week, and it happened 2 days later when we got a 4.4 south of San Jose.
You forecast an earthquake in a 3 to 4 point range this morning. We had an earthquake in the 3 to 4 point range this morning. I'm impressed.
And I thought this is mighty simple, so I started predicting informally, and I was 6 out of 8 for 1974. It wasn't until 1979 that I added to my repertoire and began to accept that animals were also a method of predicting quakes.
Now, do you mean I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you mean their behavior or by mass animal die-offs or both?
Abnormal animal behavior. I was very skeptical about such a thing because I believed in black boxes and that the science would be not well served by looking at what animals were doing, until I got a call from a physicist from Xerox in September of 1979, and he said he agreed with my upcoming seismic window based on tides because the cats were disappearing again. And I almost hung up on him. It was interrupting my dinner, and I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, I've been studying for the last 6 months the Lost and Found column in the Mercury News, and I found that the numbers of missing cats increases before local quakes." And he mentioned several quakes that I and he gave me the numbers before the quakes, and he said just before that Coyote Lake quake of August 6th of 1979, it was a 5.9 quake, the strongest in the South Bay since 1911. And I wasn't paying attention to the animals, but I should have, because our own cat Rocky had disappeared 6 days before that quake. And I'd never even thought about putting an ad in the paper because cats come and go. But there were, I believe it was 13 missing cats the week before that quake. And by the way, I'm also writing my latest issue of Syzygy, a monthly newsletter that I started writing in 1990, right after I had predicted and named the World Series earthquake, based not only on the maximum tidal force in 3 years, but also upon record numbers of missing pets. And strange animal behavior, whales beaching themselves in San Francisco and Santa Cruz, and water levels changing, and booming sounds up in the Santa Cruz mountains, and the change in the temperature and volume of the Gilroy Hot Springs as it had done before 1906, 1952, and 1979 quakes.
Right. Well, you certainly hit a home run with that one. Speculation on the internet regarding this 188-day cycle is that there is a heavy mass object coming into the solar system that's creating a trough of tidal forces, and that every time the Earth comes around the sun and gets into a particular alignment, that these tidal forces are so great it causes the stress that's built up.
Nibiru?
That's one name for it.
Well, it doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. We've had plenty of satellites going out past the sun and shooting pictures back towards the Earth, and we never have seen this other object that must have disturbed the planets and hasn't seemed to.
Let me ask you a question. You were talking about booming noises up in the hills.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of that recently, too. There's a town in Wisconsin that, as we speak, is hearing noises and experiencing shaking, but nothing's appearing on the USGS seismographs.
Well, they don't want to recognize hydrofracturing or fracking. Fracking is a very real phenomenon, and it's causing quakes, mainly small ones, but up to about 4.6. And it's something that I did not recognize. I hadn't heard the term fracking until about 6 months ago, but I'm quite aware of the effect of the changes in pore pressures from pumping of in and out of wells of gas, and now they're introducing chemicals, which is increasing great pressures and depth, and that allows the gas to escape, but they are harvesting it.
Let me ask you a question about the New Madrid fault, or New Madrid. And
that first one in 1812 occurred the day after the new moon. And in reviewing the paper by professional paper 494 by a geologist from the U.S. Geological Survey, he wrote 100 years after the 3 great earthquakes had occurred. And I finally got a copy of that book. And I was surprised to find about page 35, he has a table of the largest earthquakes, and he said 6 out of the 7 followed closely after the new or full moon. So he had my idea back in 1912.
Let me ask your opinion on what's going on down in the Ozarks. FEMA has been conducting a lot of drills. They've been buying up millions and millions of meals ready to eat, and moving men and equipment down to the Ozarks area and conducting earthquake drills. Do you think that there's a chance that the New Madrid fault might slip anytime soon?
Well, there's always a chance. It's normally about every 200 to 400 years, and it's been 200 years. I'm more concerned about the biggie going to hit the northwest on the Cascadia subduction zone.
Right, that would cause a tsunami, wouldn't it?
It certainly would. And then without a tsunami potential, but the big quake down in the Mojave in Southern California, where they haven't had a big quake since 1857. And they are well overdue. The strain on the fault there released a strike-slip displacement of 30 feet. It went right through an old sheep corral in 1857, so they know that the dimension was correct. And with the whole 2 inches a year of strain on the San Andreas, it's now equivalent to about 28 feet of movement. And now the Indian Ocean quake, back on the day after Christmas in 2004, was on the day of the full moon. The day of the full moon, and my colleagues tend to ignore that. The last really big quake before then, there was a big tsunami, was the Alaskan quake on March 27, 1964, and that was on the day of the full moon. One would see some sort of a pattern here.
How many megaquakes have happened on a full moon or a new moon? And when I say megaquake, I mean something in excess of 8 point on the Richter scale.
Well, there were listed, what was the number I saw? The USGS had a listing, and it was like, 25 of the greatest quakes. Now, this was when I was still a county geologist, and I was compiling this list. They had 25 of these superquakes, and 20 of them had been in a seismic window at the time of new or full moon. Now, let's see. My wife was born and raised in New Brunswick, Canada, and she had never felt a quake until she came out here. And I predicted the quake for around the eclipse of the moon on Thanksgiving Day in 1974, and it hit right on schedule while I was at the movies with my young daughter watching the movie Earthquake.
That's ironic, isn't it?
Yes, it was.
Well, Mr. Berkland, I thank you very much for taking your time to speak with us. If you don't mind, I'd like to call you back another time, because it seems like you've got a lot of information on the topics that my viewers find interesting.
Oh my, well, global warming is another.
Told you Jim was smart. I've never known anybody with a head for dates and events like that guy. It's totally uncanny. So, yeah, his opinion bears a lot of weight with me. A whole lot more than this guy's.
Earthquake warning!
Sorry, I just couldn't resist. So yeah, if you live in the Pacific Northwest, I would have at least 30 days worth of supplies ready to go. That's actually pretty good advice for anybody, anywhere. When I was living in South Carolina a few years ago, we had an ice storm, lost power for 3 weeks. So, you know, there were no grocery stores open, none of that stuff. And you had to really travel a ways to get a gallon of milk. And so that's, you know, a really good advice. Always have at least 30 days of supplies on hand so that if the power goes out, if there's an EMP pulse, if there's an earthquake, you know, the end of the world, you never know. At least you'll have some kind of a running head start, and you won't have to fight the crowds at the stores that are taking the last loaf of bread and the last gallon of milk and are willing to kill you for it. In the last 2 weeks, I've had over 100,000 views. That's pretty astounding when you consider that in the 2 years prior, since starting The Truth is Viral, it took me up that long to reach up to 1 million. And now in 2 weeks, I got another 100,000. Thank you so much. That's you guys. Okay, I can stand here and run my mouth and tell you the truth all day long, and nobody's going to hear it if they don't hear it from you. I depend on you to share this show with all your friends. Put it on Facebook, put it on Twitter, Orkut, Pinterest, MySpace. You know, wherever you have a social media network, down here below this video, there's a share button on the YouTube site. You can share this video on 10 different social media platforms. Okay, if you've done it already, thank you. Now do it again. And then put it on your email address list. Send it out to everybody. Then send up smoke signals, because time is running short. We have to wake up our friends and neighbors, and we have to do it now. The time for worrying that people are going to think that you are a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist or a religious nut job is over. I waited too long before I never did tell my daughter about the truth of Jesus Christ. Now I've got to live with that guilt every single day. I would spare you that. I would spare you that cold hand reaching into your chest and ripping out your heart. You need to share the truth with the people that you love, and you need to do it now. I don't know when Christ is coming back, but it could be at any time. Frankly, if we're still here 2 years from now, I will be absolutely amazed. If we're still here a year from now, I'll even be surprised. It's coming down the pike. And anybody that's got open eyes can see it. You need to share this information with your friends, with your family, the people that you care about. Wake them up. I can't do it. That's up to you. Don't forget to subscribe to The Truth is Viral right here on YouTube at OldCoreBLT13, at bobpowell.blogspot.com. Subscribe to me on networked blogs, on Facebook, on Twitter. And if you're financially able, please leave a donation. This does cost money. And I'm not a very good businessman. I'm not very good at asking for donations, and I'm not very good at making money at this. I'm a reporter. give me a pencil and a piece of paper, and I can go out and grab some facts for you. But the truth is that I have been penalized for speaking the truth. When I first started reporting $200 in income from this show, they took away $600 in benefits. They do not want me out there telling the truth. They are making it as difficult as possible for me to get back to work. That's what men do. For a long time, I was unable to. I was in this wheelchair. But I fought back. And I walk. And I talk. And I tell the truth to anybody that will listen. And I need your help to do it. So if you can, if you have the financial ability, please go to bobpowell.blogspot.com, hit that PayPal button, and help keep The Truth Is Viral on the air. Help me keep my promise to my daughter and to my God that I would spread the truth to anybody that would listen to me. Thank you for watching The Truth Is Viral. My name is Bob Powell, and as always, God bless, Semper Fi, and hoorah.
Thank you for watching The Truth Is Viral with your host, Bobby Powell. Make sure to follow The Apocalypse on Twitter at The Truth Is Viral. Like The Truth Is Viral on Facebook, and if you can, please remember to donate to the cause via PayPal at www.bobpowell.blogspot.com.
Smack, runner, your game is through. Smack, runner, I'm talking to you.